hello, and welcome to today's Harmonics, presented lovingly by Quantum Play Studios. I am your host, Arya, and my co host is.
Rachel Z. Hello, everybody.
We are here with you today, so it must mean that it's Friday. And I am thrilled to
She's
do this.
back from Bali,
Yes,
actually.
I'm back from Bali. I'm
Yes.
back home. I had some issues with jet lag, but we're good now. And I'm thrilled to continue the journey that we started last week. So if you missed last week's episode, Rachel, what did we call it?
It
Planetary?
was like planetary rulers and a cosmic journey through those energies.
Yes. So this is not one of the things I love about what we're doing, and I love us. So
I
I
love us
love
too.
doing the show. I love Rachel. I love
This
astrology.
is
So
definitely a labor of love. It's
it
definitely
is.
like
It is.
it
It is.
truly is. Yeah.
It truly is. And the reason like I think we're both so passionate about it is because this isn't a deep dive into astrology. This is us moving through each of the planets of our solar system, the brothers and the sisters of Earth, and what the archetype, the energies and the stories of these planets are. I mean,
Mm.
I think last time, Rachel, you were talking about how, exciting it was to grow up with a planetarium. And I think it's this thing, right? Like we all have a favorite planet or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that tells us a lot, right? Like for someone, if it's Venus, and for someone, if it's Pluto, like that, there is such immense archetype and history and sort of like an inner cosmology with what we like, what we're drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
And so this
Mm-hmm.
isn't, we're not going into zodiac placements and house placements or transits here. We're just journeying through the solar system from Sun to Pluto, maybe beyond, and just looking
Yeah.
through the energies of these planets.
Oh
So with
yes.
that,
Oh
I'm going
my
to throw this back
gosh.
to you.
What a beautiful
Oh,
intro. I love that. Oh yes, continue.
sorry. So in part one, we looked at Mercury. We looked at the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, Rachel, you're going to do a little bit of a recap.
Yes, yes. So like it's kind of like like those every week if you've missed
Oh,
what we covered on last episode. So last episode we went through those planets. You covered that so succinctly. Aria, that was great.
Gemini.
Yes, of course. So I'm gonna the before I get into the presentation, what I wanted to do is actually go through the transformation sequences of what are called the inner senshi or the inner Sailor Scouts. So the Sailor Scouts in Sailor Moon are divided, I guess you would say, with between the inner planets and the outer planets. And so the inner planets are Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter. Am I missing one? That's it. And the
No,
moon, actually, of
yeah,
course.
that's true.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that's all the inner planets. And so in Sailor Moon, typically season 1, season 2, season 3, those are your scouts. You don't deal with anyone Saturn and beyond
Mhm.
till much later when I think the storyline gets a bit darker and also much more adult. And so it's like we grow up
Mm.
with these Sailor Scouts. And so the inner scouts are also considered more youthful planets, right? They're more youthful scouts. So the older planets are actually older girls as well. So
So I'm just going
yeah,
to pause and interrupt you for 1 second. So for
yes,
those of you who are not familiar, because
yes.
I did not grow up with
Oh
Sailor
yes,
Moon is a Japanese manga comic series.
yes.
It obviously it's super popular all over the world. I just lived in a place where it was not popular, but Rachel obviously loves,
Obviously loves.
grows up with it.
Yes.
I remember, so the reason we're doing like this is a look at the planets and everything for sure, but the lens, I actually really, I don't think I personally love Sailor Moon as much as Rachel does, but whenever you describe it, I'm super into it because as we're moving through this journey from Sun to Pluto, we're going through these like, cosmologies and stories associated with these planets,
Yes.
maybe what it means to us. The comic series of Sailor Moon represents the a personification of some of these planets and transformations really well.
Yes. That's a great
So
way to put it. Yeah.
yeah, so we thought it would be really interesting to actually have that. So whether you've watched Sailor Moon or not, a lot of these visuals are new to me. When I met Rachel, she was like, "You're Sailor Pluto," and I was like, "I don't know what that means, but okay."
You will
I like
see.
it.
I think at the end, because Sailor Pluto will wrap all of this up, right?
Yes.
We will actually be able to see why you guys will probably agree with me. She's
Right.
Sailor
All
Pluto,
right. All right.
right?
We should do
I,
a vote at the end because Rachel herself is Sailor Moon. And when I read one of the comics, the first comic you gave me, I was like, oh my god, this is Rachel. It's
She like
so
she likes
weird.
naps and well, this is why I say Cancers and Tauruses like each other a lot. There's
Yeah,
some
yeah,
things in common with like
yeah.
hominess,
Mhm.
security. Sailor Moon likes is totally boy crazy, has crushes on all like any cute boy, loves video games, things like she's
Yeah.
friends with everybody. So there's that. So let's get into the transformations. I'm gonna share my screen. Oh my gosh, where is it on this?
This is
Present.
exciting.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't seen a lot of this as well, so you guys are watching this
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was gonna actually
anew.
show this to you ahead of time. I was like, no, let's do like a live react.
Live, yes.
Let's see here. Inner Scouts, and I picked up the English dub that
Okay.
I grew up with
Ooh.
because there's many. So I did a show with Pastel actually about our top 5 anime picks over like what we think you should watch, and in it we had a conversation about like dubs or no dubs with Japanese anime, right? So
Ah.
Pastel is like, well, you my sister agrees with this too. She's like, you don't watch Japanese anime with dubs. With the
No,
English,
subtitles.
you watch
Yeah.
subtitles because you need
Yeah.
like that emote, the emote. Even though you don't understand, there's so
Yeah.
much in like the emote of the initial
100%.
character, but there are good dubs out there, right? Princess Mononoke has a great dub, for example, as well
Okay.
as the Sailor Moon in the '90s. Because I watched it at that age, the voice actors like just have
Ah.
it's imprinted into me. So when they change the voice actors, that
Oh
matters.
god.
Oh my gosh! Like I don't know if you probably
Oh,
know
this bothers me
it.
massively.
You
I mean,
can't
it
just
bothers me with comics when
yeah
they're like, when like, I mean, I think this is like the famous thing, right? Like with George Clooney's Batman, I'm like, you picked the wrong person.
yeah.
Like, this
You
is
just
not
it's just a
Batman. This is not
miscat.
Bruce
This is
Wayne.
not the right voice. This is
It's
you
not the
need
right voice, not the
yeah.
right vibe. I started watching the new Aquaman,
Okay.
And I like Jason Momoa, but
Mhm.
they changed the personality. They've made him kind of like Tony Stark, and I'm like, but this is not King. This is not Arthur. Like what? Why did you change this? Like it's so strange. Like it's like a bro who has a kid and is like, I'm a bro and a king with a kid, and I'm like, this is not the Aquaman I grew up with.
I
You randomly
know.
changed his personality to fit. Anyway, this is a super side
I that we
tangent.
can talk about this with the Flash because they ruined the Flash.
Oh,
Like and I know why.
I
I know
know.
why. I know
Yeah,
why because you're dealing with multiverses and Flash is a big key to the
he is.
multiverse when it comes to the DC universe and also like the speed of things. Like when you go to when you break that top speed and when Flash just Flashpoint, that's when you discover
Yeah,
there's even a multiverse to begin with. So there's a
yeah,
lot of stuff entrenched in Flash comic books
yeah.
that I feel like when you get involved with things like identity politics,
It
it
doesn't work
it
well at
doesn't
all.
work. Doesn't
Yeah.
work. The Cosmos doesn't play that game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real truth to it, right? Because as I have recently learned, one of the hermetic principles,
Ooh.
I'm doing a deep dive on
Oh,
hermetic
that's a
principles.
perfect thing to say before we go into Sailor Mercury's
Oh,
transformation.
transformation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
There
Go
is
for it.
one of the, I actually had a hard time with this. One of the laws is the law of gender.
Yes.
Everything has a
Yeah.
gender that
Yes.
manifests as that, right? So our sex is is the physical manifestation of energy on lighter planes, and the physical manifestation of male and female, or man or woman, is the three-dimensional gross. By gross, I don't mean gnarly. I mean
Mm.
dense. The
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
densest three-dimensional expression of it. And so to deny the law of gender is to withhold all creation.
Yes.
So we are moving in stagnancy. And this is
Yes.
so interesting, right? So
Yeah.
transformation. So if you want to transform anything in your life, you need both the masculine and feminine principles. One or the other just does not cut it
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Or
transformation tools.
yes.
Yes.
No, that's oh, that's I feel like that's the magic too, right? To figure out I read a book about like the chakras once and
Hmm.
they were talking about the sacral chakra and about how,
Yeah.
we think about, one and one is two, but there's so much in that and,
Yeah.
right? There's so
Right.
much in that like
Yeah.
connection. So, all right. So Sailor Mercury, here we go. This is like, oh my gosh, I'm getting chills because I'm like my childhood self. This is
Oh my
exactly
god.
how it sounded like in the '90s. And this is Mars.
Oh,
I loved Mars. I was Mars when I was playing.
she's the priestess like person, right?
Yes. The heels.
Oh, interesting.
Bow. Jupiter. So Venus actually is the last one to join the Sailor Scouts.
Oh, interesting. Why
Yes.
is that? She's a celebrity, right?
Yes, because she's already awake with her cat. So she's already doing her
Oh,
own storyline, and then she kind of comes. Yeah, so I'll explain that later.
oh yeah, she's
Yeah,
exactly how I
yeah.
thought she would be. There's a lot of little symbolism.
Yeah, that they add to it. And so they've got like different the seasons. You can see also like the animation change.
Right, right.
I'm just going to do this one, and then we'll stop.
Who is this?
This is Mercury again.
Oh,
Yes,
Mercury.
yeah. So it's gonna go through because they're the 4 inner scouts. This is my favorite transformation for her.
So Mars was the daughter or the mother of Pluto from a future timeline? Is
Yes,
that what you were saying?
yes. Mars is she's, and as I said, like the manga
Timeline.
and the what they tried to do with the live action, I guess like the anime that they did live was like they also did a lot of stuff with Sailor Moon when they westernized it to take out things like the fact that especially in the first season there are already like same-sex relationships happening, but they took that out
Why?
because it's the West. I don't know.
But Sailor Moon's from the 90s.
I
Like,
know,
was this
yeah.
taboo in the 90s?
I don't think it
I don't
was,
remember.
but like
I also
they
didn't.
chose to that's a topic for another time, but
Yes.
yes. Okay, it's good.
So do the men transform?
Not really, but we'll get to Uranus because she's
Okay.
special. Jupiter. So Jupiter's kind of a tomboy too,
Oh,
which we'll
she's
get
a
to.
tomboy. Okay.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
like
she's
how
really
Mercury has like a cowboy hat kind of a thing going. Like that was cool.
and the sigil,
Okay.
and then Venus. And I was like, they have time to do this when the bad guy is there.
Yeah, they do. Excuse me, I'm just gonna transform for 1 second. Yeah. It's the thing with He-Man, right? Like, excuse me, by the power of Grayskull.
And then you have all this time, but
Yeah.
yeah, and then I think this is their final.
Right. Oh, so Sailor Moon isn't in here.
Not in this one, no.
Okay.
Sailor Moon's got her own.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love the symbolism of this just because they kind of show off,
Yes.
right? So you have so each season of Sailor Moon, their transformation sequence is a little bit different, and their powers are a little bit different. They're a little bit stronger, right, as they evolve. And so in the final seasons, like where they're Sailor Moon Crystal, yeah, you can see here like Mercury's got like a harp, a lyre, right, which is like
Yeah, yeah.
related to Hermes and his lyre. And then Sailor Mars actually has some Sagittarius fire thing going on
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
actually,
for sure.
because she's got that arrow of fire I like that power that she has as well. But she also has one where, because she's a priestess, where she has like this like slip of paper that she holds to her head, and then she like
Oh.
incants on it, and then she throws it at people.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's one of her powers. That's one of her
Yeah, yeah.
earlier powers, which I liked a lot. And then so we've got Sailor Venus, which she's the last one to join the Inner Scouts because she's already got her own thing with Artemis and Mission. So the Guardians, these 4, they're sworn to protect the Moon Princess.
Oh, these 4. Okay.
Yes, and so the Moon Princess is Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon herself doesn't even know that she is in fact the Moon Princess as
Right.
well.
Yeah, yeah. She finds that slowly.
Like,
What is
yeah.
Jupiter's symbolism here?
I don't know what that is exactly.
Yeah, I can't tell either.
She's lightning. So actually, that's a good segue into the actual presentation.
Jupiter. Also, did we do? We didn't do the moon.
We did not do the moon.
Okay, we can do Moon and Jupiter. Sorry, Moon and Pluto after, or we can do whenever.
Let's do Moon
Let's do
last
moon last. I'm into that.
because yeah, because Sailor Moon herself that deals with like Sailor Cosmos
Yes.
and all the
Yes. Yes.
the whole idea of like reincarnation in this universe, as
Okay.
well as something that's called the what do they call it? The cosmic endpoint or the cauldron of the cosmos, which is at the Sagittarius star point.
Yeah,
What?
it's where like the center of the Milky Way, like the galactic center is through Sagittarius,
Yes,
right?
so
Or
they use that mythology
yes.
in Sailor
Okay.
Moon where it's where the star crystals come from that they transform.
Right.
So
Yeah, everything
yeah,
comes from the center.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
So ultimately, let's go into Jupiter. I'm just gonna switch. How do I?
Yeah, for sure. While you're switching, and
Yes.
this is sort of the just like a little where this stuff is really fun for me. As I mentioned, I've never watched Sailor Moon. I don't know anything about the cauldron of whatever, but this is the beauty with certain stories that are well made that the archetype carries forth. So even though I've never seen it, all you have to say is like, oh, something, something, there's a cauldron at the center of the Milky Way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, Sagittarius galactic center. And like I think this is like sometimes we call this synchronicity, but to
Mm.
me it's like when certain things feel true, even if it's in a story, even if it's in fantasy, they just are true. It
Ooh.
doesn't matter what language, just
Oh my
doesn't
gosh.
matter,
Oh my gosh.
right? Like
I was actually saying this on my TikTok live the other night about how you know like resonance, right, with stuff. You know like when you have a favorite
yeah,
character or like you
yeah.
have a favorite episode or there's like a favorite part in a movie that you love and you just
Mhm.
remember. And I've honest like that's like keys for you from you
Yep,
in the future
yep,
being
yep.
like when you're ready this moment you're going to be able to put that with this moment and then you're
Yeah.
some it's going to unlock something for you so like
And yeah,
that's
these are the breadcrumbs that we
yeah
leave ourselves or like
yeah
our inner
in our
guide or our outer guide, things
yeah
like
yeah
that.
in
Totally.
all of this what seems like frivolousness or all
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in the comic books in like your songs that you love like it's there's stuff in there when you feel it like you know that little like oh that's
Yeah.
that's for
And
you.
it's oh totally. And like it's so beautiful that Jupiter is where we're going to because I think for me a big shift in from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius where we're now after the grand conjunction that took place in
Mm.
2020, I think how we discern truth before it was like facts and la la la, sure, but like obviously media lies,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
and so now, how we discern truth to me is like a song of resonance. If something is true for you, you'll
Good
know
for
it.
you. Yeah.
And there is an intuitive like we have to build our intuitive musculature, which is like Jupiter is in Gemini right now, right? Like all of
Yeah.
this stuff is us using different faculties, different quantum human faculties to figure out what is true and what to like sort it all out
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
we can take our soul or heart's next step rather than like follow something else.
Yeah, the distractions or like, you know, side quests that aren't yours in the video game of life, you know?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
put it like this with when I was playing Borderlands with my sister in the beginning of the game, you know, you have to do certain things, right?
Yeah.
To use certain weapons or to upskill or get experience points, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes you'll end up on a mission that's really like useless. It's like honestly like and I'll sometimes ask her, I'm like, do we really have to do this? Is this mission necessary? And if it's
No.
not, like, don't do it. But I think sometimes
Yeah.
we end up in these like side quests, you know,
Yeah.
and like
Exactly.
and for maybe a piece of it, maybe it is useful and it's for you to develop experience, right? I don't think anything's a waste, but it's at the same time just being like, okay, wait a minute, is this serving my main soul mission right now? Or
But
is it a
some
distraction?
people love side quests.
Yes.
Like
Some people will live and play the whole game just in a side quest.
yeah, like and it's so different than how we might play it.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
exactly,
for sure.
exactly. Okay, so let's start with Jupiter. We so
Actually,
Jupiter.
Rachel, can you make your screen like full? Because the bottom's cut out for me.
Okay, let me
The
see if
writing, yeah.
let's see if I can.
I think it's like the top left next to your settings gear wheel thingy.
Oh my gosh, do I have? Hold
Top
on.
right. I said left, but I meant right.
Okay, okay, wait. Let's see here.
Or
No.
you could just maybe scroll down, but like the bottom's cut off.
Oh, I don't know if I can do anything about that
No worries.
necessarily. Let's see actually if
Oh,
I do
perfect,
this. Here, here,
perfect.
here.
That's
Is that
great.
is that better?
I love it. I love it.
Ah, okay. That's so weird that it.
It
Okay,
is weird, but yeah,
I'm still getting used to Google Meet
yeah.
versus. Okay, all right. So we're gonna do Jupiter for. Oh my gosh, no. Okay,
What was that?
that was me messing with things. Hold on, I just wanted to go back to my. I need another monitor.
Ah!
That's what I really need. Okay, we're good. Let's begin. Okay, so Jupiter. I it's funny because I actually worked with a girl whose favorite Sailor Scout was Sailor Jupiter, and I was like, really, wouldn't imagine that, but that tells me actually something about her, right? So
Oh,
Jupiter, Zeus, king of the gods and ruler of Sagittarius, and the ancient ruler of Pisces. The ruler of knowledge, good luck, wisdom, and fruitfulness tends to be a strong position in the chart as well as one that is considered expansive and lucky, known as the great benefactor. The glyph of Jupiter symbolizes the crescent of the soul that rises above the light of matter. Pure consciousness and soul triumph over earthly things.
yeah.
So,
I actually didn't know that, but I love that because like see the four part of Jupiter makes the cross, right?
yeah,
And then you have
yeah,
the soul rising above. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of Jupiter in Sailor Moon. You can see her here. She's got lightning, of course, because like thunderbolts, all that kind of fun stuff. In
Yeah.
the manga and in the anime, she's kind of like considered, she's very tall, right? So she, in Japanese, I guess, culture is like, oh, you're very tall, so you're now very masculine, right? So
Oh,
they like she'd get bullied a lot because of it, and so she'd have to fight back. So she was known as having this like bad attitude and stuff, and so Sailor
interesting.
Moon ends up befriending her. uh, I forget how, but I think it's because Sailor Moon defends her in a fight, something like that. And then she finds out that she's actually a Sailor Scout as well, Sailor Jupiter. And so her power, uh, it tends to be that she's tomboyish, but she's actually also boy crazy. And as I said, like besties with Sailor Venus.
Right.
So,
I in esoteric astrology, Jupiter is a higher octave of Venus, right? So if Venus is
okay.
love, Jupiter is where like faith, devotion, like sort of spirituality, all of this stuff kind of comes in.
Mm.
From a Greek or Roman perspective, um actually never cared for Zeus, like of all the gods, but I've recently developed a bit of an appreciation for him because all the gods in Greek and Roman cosmology, they kind of did their own thing and had their whatever they were doing messing around with human lives. And Zeus did too, like all of his affairs and things like that. But like, if you actually look at it from an esoteric lens, he was the only god that cared enough about humans to want to interact with them.
Mm.
That story of interaction, we see it in these ancient Greek poems as like he saw a beautiful woman and he made love to her and he had like whatever 75 like relationships, but it was it's the sort of thing the other gods did, but no one did it as much as him, because as a deity, he quested to get to know and understand humans,
You
right?
have, yeah, you have something there. And I
Right.
also,
And
with
yeah,
Zeus
sorry, just to
himself.
finish that
Oh, yeah,
thought.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, there's just this connection with like when we think of expansion happens here in 3D. Zeus Zeus's expansion is through mating with human females and having these demigod children,
Mm-hmm.
and the expansion and exploration like of life here on earth. So it's Jupiter's expansion to me is through the earth, through what is important to Venus, through the sensual pleasures. And so this is like that dance of like Jupiter and Venus, and like you have love and then you transform it into devotion, faith. You take eros, and then it becomes agape and philia, and these like different expanded experiences of love that we have.
Hmm. I like that. I think, as you were saying stuff about Zeus being interested in humankind and like loving these women, and I was reading something about how Zeus also has like maternal qualities to him in regards to how some of his children were born. For
Yeah.
example, Athena, uh, his the way Athena was created was that I think her mother was a goddess of wisdom herself named Thetis. And then
Yeah.
it was a fly, and then he ate the fly, and then later he had a terrible headache and used an
Yes.
axe to open up his head, and then out jumped Athena, fully formed in armor, ready to go.
Yes.
So he birthed her, right, from his head.
From
So
his
even though,
consciousness. Yeah.
exactly, so that's even though like it's a very masculine way of doing it, but it's a masculine like way of birthing something,
Yeah,
right?
because that's how you birth consciousness.
Yeah, so that's where
Yeah.
Athena like popped out of from, right?
Yes.
And Dionysus was actually birthed from Zeus's thigh in one
Right? Yeah.
tradition. Yeah. So I forget how that happened.
I also don't know
I
now.
forget the story behind it as to why he was why that happened. But Dionysus came from his legs. So that's kind of maternal birthing as well, right? So this
Yeah.
idea of and also being the lightning bolt, right? The connection between heavens and the earth and this like what that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, when you were talking about Sailor Jupiter, like the tomboy
Yes.
aspect, it's it's this funny thing, right? Because I don't know how it is for you, but Jupiter for me is in my eighth house,
Okay.
which is the house associated with like death, rebirth, sexuality.
Mm.
It's actually also a house associated with like wealth, but not like income wealth, more like holding on to wealth. And
Yeah.
it's actually a great placement for stuff like that. But the eighth house is known for like it's called like the house of sex, death, and taxes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
For a good reason because
The
it's like
occult, the hidden, the
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And so you have this for me, I have this bigness in all the stuff that's hidden. So my
So
struggle,
is your Jupiter in Scorpio as well? Sorry.
no, my
Oh, okay.
Jupiter is in Capricorn of all things.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
this
Okay.
like earthy expression, it's this benevolent planet in this like earthy to me like this is actually what balances my Gemini side is
Mm.
my Jupiter in Capricorn
Hmm.
because the classical Gemini is like so frazzled that they can't like they're
To
organized, they're good at
ground, yeah.
organization,
It's
but
like
like they can't,
I'm here in all these
yeah,
different
to
time spaces and all over the place.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but like for me with money, I'm like, oh, we're going traveling, here is a budget, we will adhere to said budget.
See, that is a very I think well aspected way of dealing with Gemini too, right? Like it's
It
a way
is.
of like taking all those calculations, but then you like hone it to like a specific purpose and like bring it
Exactly.
to a
And like
yeah.
Capricorn, yeah, exactly. And like I think it's my like my only Earth is Capricorn with Jupiter.
Wow,
So
that's a
it's like a large, it balances my stellium. A stellium is many, many planets in one sign.
yes.
It balances my very airy fairy stuff
That's so
on
funny
Gemini
because
here.
my Jupiter's in Aquarius.
Of course it is. I did know that. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Wow.
11th. So
Yeah.
it's like it's one of those things like I don't have very
What
many.
sorry, what house is it?
I can't even remember right now. Let me
Yeah,
just double
no, it's
check.
all right though. We're not going into a deep
Deep
astrology.
dive, but all I know is that as far as like air placements, I have my moon in Gemini and then Jupiter is in Aquarius and yeah, so then it's just the the stuff when it comes to speaking and the fact that like this gives me like almost like I feel like I'm like the stories that I need to tell affect a bigger
Yeah.
cosmological thing, right? And it's a matter of oh my gosh, like it's just the friendship thing, right? Like I've just always like been able to be friends with like people from like all different walks of life, and I do think that that
Mhm.
is like definitely an air sign to be able to talk to very many different like to be able to relate on all like scales and like have a story to talk about with anybody. Where it comes into play with like Aquarius is like just being able to have friend groups that like provide luckiness and benevolence, right? So for example, like when me and like me and Kevin like through clients and personal training have like gone on trips, gotten gifts, done all this like kind of stuff, which is all just like from like friendship, right? You
Yeah.
know, and so it's not like to say that you're like doing like oh my friend has a boat so now I get to go on a boat or
Yeah,
like my
yeah, yeah.
friend lives in this like fun tropical location so now I get to go on an island for free and stuff like so like but these things happen
Yeah.
because of friendships, but they're genuine friendships. They just happen to like it's a way of how I'm able to like navigate in this game, I guess, as well. So yeah,
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 yeah. And currently Jupiter is in an air sign, like it's in Gemini. And
true
so
that.
you have like your moon and Jupiter, which make a very happy, I feel they play
Yeah,
the moon
yeah,
together.
yeah.
So
They could be okay together. They're
yeah,
okay.
they're right. They're
They're all right.
right.
So I think with that, I think we're good with Jupiter.
Yeah.
Anything? Yeah, I think that's
So
good.
Jupiter is considered the last of the, I don't know, would we say personal planets?
That's
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
And it's a kind of interesting, I meant to look this up in accuracy, but all of the planets closer to the sun, so Mercury, Venus, the moon, obviously, Mars, and Jupiter were all like you can see them with a naked eye. I mean, technically you can see Saturn too, but like they were
Technically.
all like visually discovered through the lens of astronomy, like fairly early on, like whatever, 1700s or something. The other planets came up later.
Mm,
So the one thing, sorry, we didn't talk about for Jupiter is
mm.
it's what it rules. So it
Yes. Oh,
rules
yes.
Sagittarius and Pisces.
Yes.
And so do you want to take that on?
Oh,
You go ahead.
yeah. Actually, yeah, because the ancient ruler of Pisces, right? So this idea that, it's funny because when I did Mozart's chart, because I was doing a little like astro chart reading to be like, could my dog Wolfie be the reincarnation of Mozart? Let's do an exploration. So it it is actually possible, based on like my analysis. But
Yeah, yeah,
and I found that Mozart was actually ruled by the planet Uranus, but this is at a time when Uranus wasn't discovered. So imagine being like
wow.
ruled by a planet's energies that
And you have no
hasn't been
idea.
discovered yet, and so it's like you're literally a man who's like too much ahead of time,
So ahead of time.
right? So,
Yeah.
and you can tell from his music and all like everything, like how that all flowed through him, being a conduit for what like the divine speaks in like music and having it all just come out and be the operas. Then
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot of yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so sorry, Uranus, for those of you who don't know, is Pisces' current ruler, which is why Rachel just brought it up.
Uh, is it?
Wait,
You're
isn't it?
isn't it
I don't know.
Aquarius?
Okay, forget
Uranus.
I said that.
Well,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
I
Yes,
lied.
yes.
I
Oh,
lied.
yes, yes.
I'm
Okay,
sorry. You're totally right.
but
My bad.
that's all to say that like there's still all those outer planets that you were talking
Yeah.
about though they weren't discovered till I don't know if you have dates at all, like in like a
Early
time frame.
1900s?
It's something like that though, right?
Yeah.
So within the last 100 years,
Yeah, I
could we say
think
that?
yeah, I think Pluto was 1906 or something like that.
Okay,
But the others were like late 1800s, early 1900s.
okay. So it's crazy to think too like that to me it does I would not think necessarily that Pisces would be the ancient ruler, or sorry, that Jupiter be the ancient ruler of Pisces. I don't know why.
Spirituality, expansion, faith.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of, that was my guess actually.
Okay. Yeah, no, actually now when you explain it like that, that does
Yeah, right?
actually I can vibe with that.
Yeah, because Jupiter is also the great teacher, right? And so to and so I guess if you look at like ancient times, like mystery schools and things like that, the great teachings were to be one with the
Yeah.
universe, like like alchemical hermetic principles,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
alchemy, math, all of this stuff. Any type of higher learning, I think at the time maybe was associated
Yeah, yeah, I
with
could see
Jupiter.
that because I think also like the way the star stories went maybe at the time too when they're trying to when they were when science was being created, right? As well,
Yeah.
too. You think like Galileo and they're creating the telescope and things like that. So, and the creation of astronomy versus astrology,
Yes.
right? And so this I think that Jupiter can also represent a bridge between like those
I
things
Yeah,
maybe.
it did. Actually, in one of the Hermetic texts that I'm reading now, one of the beautiful things they explain is like there has been for many years, like I guess since the Dark Ages, this fight between mysticism or religion and science. But in the time of Pythagoras, in the time of these ancients, mystical science was a thing. So
Mhm.
it's almost
Yeah.
like if you study astronomy and you account for the variable of human unknowability, you get astrology, you get wonderment,
Ah, I
you
love
get magic,
that. I
you have,
love that.
right? You
Oh,
get all the, oh, at this point in time, the thing rises and sets, and this is what it means for like the tides and blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
And you get, this is what it means for the human energetic system. And this is all the stuff we don't know and we'll discover and it will change. And it's this like
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful marriage of the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
and that kind
incredible.
of goes with what we were even saying about like Zeus being having maternal qualities and being like being
Exactly.
loving women and just loving humankind too, wanting to interact with humankind
Yeah, yeah.
and make these heroes too, right? right? Like we wouldn't have Hercules and Perseus
Anyone. We
if
wouldn't have anyone.
right, if Zeus didn't like go around like spreading his seed and stuff. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
the god seed. Okay.
The gods.
Okay, so now we're gonna fly to
We're
Saturn.
gonna fly really far because Jupiter and Saturn are really far from each other.
Are they really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like
They're
Mercury,
really big too,
Venus,
if you think
they're
about it. Like,
so
and they have
big.
tons
Yeah.
of moons as
Yeah, so many
well.
moons. Yeah, like the moons need space. I actually love, sorry, this thing with Jupiter. All of the moons are like Jupiter's women and like two dudes. Right?
It's
Like
true. It's true.
Ganymede with like
It's
the two
true.
dudes.
It's
Yeah.
true. That's so true. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that might be something to look at too, like the moons of all the different planets and stuff.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
I mean, like they're also air giants, right? So typically, like, it's funny because in the manga, they go to each of their palaces. Like Saturn has a palace on Saturn, but I'm like, you couldn't though because it's gas, right? Isn't it? They're gas giants.
The planet is, but the moons aren't,
The moons aren't.
essentially.
But if Saturn were to have a palace on the planet Saturn,
It would be gassy, yes.
yeah, it would just be an imagination, I suppose. I don't know.
Or a different dimensional reality. Like what we perceive as gas could be very stable to a different type of being.
Yes, definitely. So Saturn. Quick fun fact about personal Rachel lore: Saturn was my favorite planet when I was a kid.
Was it because of the rings?
Yes, it was so pretty. It looked like a jewel in the sky. So that was my favorite planet. And then later on, like it became Venus. But yeah, I don't know if you have a favorite planet of when you were a kid at all.
When I was a kid, it was actually Venus, and then it later
Ah.
became Mercury.
Oh, fun. Okay, fun
Yeah.
facts. That tells us
Yeah.
something about our inner children and what that was all about. But
Well, I mean, super vain. Like, oh, Venus, it's the planet of love, and
oh,
it's shiny in the sky. Like,
no, excuse me. That's a resonance there.
yeah.
Yeah, right? Like it's pretty. So like why? Okay. So Kronos, god of
Mm.
time and agriculture, ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius. Yes, the ruler of time, and in ancient times ruled over the golden age. I don't think people remember this about like Saturn ruling a golden age as well. Um, Father of
I don't. What
Zeus.
is that?
So in ancient times, there's a speak of like when Kronos ruled over the earth that it was actually like a golden age time.
Really? Because he's not a cool
No,
dude.
he's not. He's terrible. Yeah, but I'm just saying like this is renditions of mythologies, right?
Right.
So
Interesting.
just something to consider when it comes to like dealing with Saturn energies,
Mm.
etc. People can quote me on this. I don't know all the details of it. This was something that I had pulled when I was looking up the processions of the equinox in terms of like and going back to
Yeah,
when,
yeah.
yeah. So we should come back to this about the ages,
Yeah.
turning of the ages, especially when we're talking about reviving a golden age, right? Okay, so father of Zeus, and he tried to eat them all. That's
Yeah.
his big claim to fame. That scary painting of like Kronos like eating his children. So there's
Yeah.
that. And so he's the father of all, like most of the major gods of Olympus, like Hera and I forget who the Pluto, Hades,
Neptune.
Poseidon. Yeah,
Poseidon,
Poseidon.
yeah.
They're all like brothers of Zeus, and so they were also sons of Kronos. Restriction, discipline, and roles in society are Saturn's domain. I forgot the I-N at the end there. Also deals with the shadow side as well as the darker side of personality in some cases. And then let me see if I can make this bigger on this side. Oh my gosh. Why aren't you? What the heck?
Yeah, your last point. I think
What?
that's the big one.
It is the big.
Retrogrades, right?
Oh yeah, so it
Yeah.
can be a challenging planet in astrology, but can provide power.
Yeah, I mean, I almost didn't live through my Saturn retrograde. It was very touch and go for a while, and they last so long. It's like
Uh, it,
2.5 years or something.
oh my gosh, I think also too something is that's known as like the Saturn return as well.
Yes.
Would you like
Sorry,
to?
retrograde. I meant return.
Okay, so I was gonna say like retrograde also is a thing too to note when your planets are in retrograde in your own chart.
Isn't Saturn retrograde now?
I don't know. I can check.
I'll check. I'll check.
Yes,
You
yes.
go ahead with your presentation.
Oh yes. Okay. I just have to adjust this framing on here.
Yes.
Okay. So Yes, a challenging planet in astrology, but can provide power. In Sailor Moon, Sailor Saturn. Okay, she's a unique Sailor Scout. Super
Yeah, she is
unique.
not what I expected.
She's definitely not. She's like she gets reborn a couple of times. I am fuzzy on the details of. Actually, you know what? Let's do Sailor Saturn's transformation because
Mm.
she's not. There's the outer Sailor Scouts, which are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, right? And they're kind of like a threesome, and they kind of like hang out with each other. But Saturn's like on her own, and she's kind of like younger. Actually, I'll just maybe I'll do a search for her.
Her transformation?
Yes, she has she has like her one power is to destroy the world, basically.
That's ridiculous. But you know what? Like, I mean, I forgot that Kronos was associated with agriculture, but like it was sort of like mechanics, right? So if the golden age
Mm-hmm.
is like Iron Age, Bronze Age, like sort of in agricultural revolutionary things, I can see why, because Kronos was like attached to his wife, like Rhea, which is why it repeated
Yes.
so many. And so this is sort of like the original union of the masculine feminine. Like they actually, I think they physically couldn't separate or didn't separate, whatever.
Oh no, 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 wait, I
um
got it. No. So
okay.
because Uranus was attached to Gaia, right? And then Kronos came with a sickle and cut off Uranus's dick.
And then the same thing happened with Kronos. Wasn't he attached to his wife, Gaia, Rhea, whatever?
I don't know. I'm not as familiar with that. I know that
Okay,
this one
never mind.
he was swallowing his children, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Rhea went in cahoots with Zeus and gave Zeus to the nymphs, right, to
Yes,
raise.
yes, she
And so
did.
then Rhea gave
Hmm.
Kronos a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes to trick
And he
him,
just
and they ate the
yes,
stone. Yeah, and then
yes,
later
yes.
Zeus came and like freed his kids. But
Right. Okay. Okay. Fair point. But I think the agriculture thing is interesting because he's holding time and he's holding like something that looks like not a sickle but whatever it's called, like a hoe.
is that?
Um, well, I don't, agricultural implement. Let's call it
Yes,
that.
yes.
So that might be the golden age thing.
I think that's where, like, because you think of like golden wheat, right? And then if you think of
Yeah.
agriculture and like when you
Yes.
think of fall, that's when you harvest. So
Yes, the harvesting tool. Yes. Yeah.
yes,
I like
yeah,
that. Let's go with that.
yeah. I think that that's there with like the symbolism and unpacking that, and so like Saturn does get a bad rap, but like you wouldn't have anything if you didn't have boundaries and time to
But time
experience
is,
it.
yeah, time is an interesting one, right? Because I think he's also like in Vedic astrology, he's associated with karma, but karma is not so like this. You can elaborate on this if this is what
Oh,
you think Sailor Saturn is, but to me, like karma doesn't exist unto itself, right? Like karma exists because you have in the Vedic cosmology, you have dharma, which is duty,
mm-hmm.
and in the fulfillment of your duty you're like good karma, and if you don't fulfill your duty you have bad karma. And karma is also not linear.
No.
It's not like, oh, I lied to you yesterday because I ate your cupcake and therefore I will starve tomorrow, right? It's actually across space and time. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the that's Saturn's like the lord of time, but also beyond space and time. It's what bridges the real outer planets, the generational planets, with like the personal ones. And so it's,
Mm.
to me, and this might be why Saturn's like Sailor Saturn's off to herself, because like being a bridge is kind of lonely. You're like holding these two edges together. You are like a lord of time, but you're also beyond time, and you're teaching. This is like anyone who's like lived through their Saturn return
Yes.
or like a second Saturn return
Oh,
would be
could you
like,
go into a quick, I guess, define Saturn return?
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Saturn return is when Saturn returns to its exact position
Mm.
on the date and time of your birth. So on the date of the moment of my birth, Saturn was at 29 degrees or 11 degrees, one of them.
Ooh.
In yeah, I know, right?
Oh.
Uh, in,
Have fun with
in
that.
Scorpio, it was not fun.
Oh my
In
gosh.
Scorpio,
That's
in
very intense.
it is very intense. In Scorpio,
Yeah.
in the sixth house, right? Like sixth house is like your everyday life. So my everyday life took a massive hit when the
Wow.
time came when Saturn returned to Scorpio a bunches of years later, around 27 years later. So we get two, maybe three Saturn returns in our life, depending on how long we live. And the teaching of Saturn is a lot of the themes that Rachel just discussed, right? There's
Mm.
you actually have to come to a different relationship with time. So a person's second Saturn return aligns just after their midlife. So like when people have midlife crises, it's
Yeah.
unresolved Saturn return stuff. You have issues with time because you're aging. You have
Yeah.
issues with like legacy,
Your
karma,
life work, what
children,
you're doing
your
with
life work.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, all, like if you're a parent or if you're not a parent, like you have stuff to figure out with that, right? And like Cronus had issues with his children, obviously,
Oh,
because
yeah.
one of them killed him and then he ate the rest, right? So like there's a lot of themes here, and the resolution, like deeply going through your Saturn return and successfully coming out of it, who's huzzah for all of us who did, that can be really tough for many people. If your Saturn's super hidden, you may not notice it, but the themes are still there,
Yes. Yes.
I would say.
Yes. That's well put. Well
Yeah.
put. Yes. Saturn returns are, I think, they can be a little bit turbulent for most folks. So it's important, I think, if you know about it, just to like prepare yourself for it. That's all. And maybe you
Yeah.
can't. I don't know.
And like, I don't know if you can. Like, I thought I was prepared. I was not.
Oh my goodness.
I was
Okay.
prepared for all the wrong things.
Let's see this.
Okay, there's Saturn.
So dramatic.
She is oddly expansive. Whoa.
Okay.
So to me, this is a bit unexpected, because for every expansion of Jupiter, Saturn is the balance contraction, and that to me was not contracting at all. What's your
No.
sense on this?
No, I think hold on, let's see here. If I can find
One light scent that lasts?
No,
Try
I
Downy Light.
Oh my god, ads.
From brief
Oh my
to
gosh.
build.
Kevin will tell me, he's like,
Discover dozens
you
of
need
new
ad
items
block.
on
I'm like,
Studio.
I
You do
know,
need ad
but I have
block.
to
Surprises.
Here, you can skip it.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, fan art.
Saturn, let his power make up!
It's interesting because there's a lot in her mind, and that's
Yeah.
also not where I'd place Saturn.
Um
What's your take on this? On her personality, even in the show?
You know what? I'm trying to find, because she has a relationship with Sailor Pluto. Like Sailor Pluto has to take care of her, I think.
Right.
And there's like a hold on, Sailor Saturn. Let's see here. Origin.
right.
I am
I
a
mean,
soldier of silence.
oh my. Ooh,
Yeah.
past lives, yeah.
Yeah. Past lives are definitely with Saturn, because she is the reincarnation. I forget.
Is she very like rule followy, disciplinarian, authoritative?
No, because she's a little girl.
Don't be scared.
Oh, I see.
Who are you? The way you look. Are you me?
I am one who sleeps within you, a memory, you might say.
You're asleep inside me?
Yes, and it's time to wake up. You and I have a new mission before us. The
Okay,
sleeper
can you
must
pause this?
awaken.
Just for people who are new to the show, this is basically Rachel's life.
I love this
So-
show. This show has so many things in it. Look at it. Do you see?
So when Rachel was 14,
Yeah.
she wrote this. You explain it because it's your life.
Oh,
You
yeah,
wrote this
I wrote a
called
book.
Dragon
Yeah,
Warriors,
it's called The Dragon Warriors. Like in the summer of 1999, when I graduated from grade 8, it was like one of those things. You graduate from grade 8 to grade 9. I was going to high school, so me and my girlfriends at the time, I wrote a book about us. I wrote a story about how we had superpowers that were we were like reincarnations of like ancient Atlantean warriors and like archetypes, and embodying them, and like we were here to like save the world, right?
Yeah.
And
And then
so
Rachel had this experience right here that you just
yeah,
saw.
that I'm seeing right now, just like holy shit, I forgot this even happened. But like that,
Yeah.
it's like we have a new. I'm like holy, I just had like the
Yeah. And so today, like adult Rachel is has rebirthed this book, made it a little bit more adult,
yeah,
and like updated some people, and she's creating this book series called The Dragon Warriors. Like,
yeah,
and one of the, I think the first or second book has this, and like I think this is the cool thing about Saturn, because it
mm,
is actually non-linear. So this notion of, if
time,
you have a
yes,
child, they are your future ancestor, right? Because we live cyclically. The soul lives in a spiral like the Milky Way galaxy. And so Saturn, I think, is that it's a bridge, I think, as we discussed, but how I see it is, it's Saturn is the first time in our solar journey that we are like, oh, time is a spiral. And now the sense of discipline, and by discipline I mean, like, the word comes from disciple, it comes from love.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
on its higher octave.
yeah,
On its lower octave, it can be a rule following,
yeah,
like, when you say a Saturnian person, like a disciplinarian, maybe even a tyrant. But its higher octave is structure that is loving, structure that comes from love and is
yeah.
for love,
Oh my
that can
gosh, yeah.
bridge the outer and the inner.
You said something so lovely about discipline, right? Because a big thing, like Kevin, for example, he has some harmonious aspects with Saturn, right? So
Mm.
like when it comes to like prepping for fitness competitions, for example, like bodybuilding shows, like he was
Yeah.
just always he's so good with like prep and that discipline. And I've learned a lot from being in a relationship with him, because I'm Taurus, so like I have a little bit more of like this, like, oh, I'll nap till whenever and I'll get up when so this I have to like
Yeah.
work with that, right? But discipline's really about like see like giving up what you want right now in the moment for what you want most of all, right?
Yeah, and Kevin loves his body, and loves, like, not in a vain way,
No,
not in
it's
like a bizarre way. Like, there's a genuine, like, oh wow, I have a great body, and like, what else can it do? Like, there's like a love and a curiosity,
yes, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah. And then having discipline with yourself, it like allows you to create a body or in anything, right? Discipline is like the structure around anything to just create anything, like to make
a project,
have it
yeah,
have form, right? Have like you need to like have a plan for it, like even us doing this show and stuff, right? You need to have
yeah,
like we can have the idea of it, but then
yeah,
it takes making like a point in time space of like we're going to do this at 5 o'clock and we're going to meet here like
yeah,
for it to come together, right? And Saturn, I
exactly.
feel like, is a lot of like
Yeah,
that, yeah, yeah. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, oh my god,
I love.
I forgot about the scene actually, but
Yeah, so like past
Protected
lives
by.
actually is super interesting with Saturn,
yes.
because of this spiralized experience of time. And actually, do we have time for me to share like a little story?
Oh my gosh,
So,
yes, yes.
okay, so like deep into my Saturn return, I had this like massive health crisis, and it kind of came on suddenly. I think, Rachel, you know the details. And I was like sitting in my room. So what happened was, I was showering, and like a chunk of my hair fell out. And like, this is a very, like, I'm a person of Indian origin. I grew up in the Middle East. Like, women's long dark
Yeah, your
silky
hair,
hair,
yeah.
it's like, it's a thing, right? Anyway, it's all
It's part
fine,
of
I
it.
healed, but it's lovely. But in that moment, like, this much hair just like fell out. I had these massive bald spots. And I remember like coming into my bedroom and just like holding the stuff. I didn't even throw it out. I was just like holding it, because I was crying. I was hyperventilating. I was alone, and I was just rocking back and forth. And this was like intense. It went on for hours. I
Yeah.
cried. I was disgusted with myself. Like, I had all this self hatred come up. So in all of this ugliness, I suddenly felt this presence behind me, and like someone came up behind me and just held me. And though I was hyperventilating, though this was like the big crack for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was the start of this like 5-6 year long like deep healing journey, like 3 years of celibacy, solitude, like my only friends were plants and crystals kind of vibe, right?
Mhm.
This is like
Mhm.
point zero. And I just felt this space, like this holding behind me, and I was still like a wretched mess. And I didn't feel like everything's gonna be okay, but somewhere in my soul, I knew that, like, okay, this is the start of something else. Blah blah
Mm.
blah.
Mhm.
years passed. Like I healed, everything happened, all good. Sitting in the same bedroom, I don't know what I was doing. I think I had started to work with timelines in a more conscious way. And I remember like being in this state. And then I got up from my bed and I changed all my furniture around in this bedroom. And I got up and I kneeled down and I just hugged a past version of myself. And so I had this moment where like a version of me that was stronger, more healed, realized and saw what things were, was able to like and I had forgotten that this even happened. I remembered when I'm like, who am I hugging? And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm hugging me. That was me. I am my own angel.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh.
This was my Saturn return, guys.
Oh my gosh. I was even just telling Kev today, I tell him that like there's a place in the cosmos where all of our inner children play together, right?
Yeah.
Right? And
It's
so like
called the Grand Arcade.
that's one place in it. We got a little playground over here. It's decked out. And in there,
Yeah.
all of our imaginations come true, right? And this is just one of those games that we're playing with each other, I feel like. So, to that point, oh my gosh, I just like all the tingles when you're telling that story, because I know exactly how that, like, it's just, you are the hero that your inner child has been waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And Saturn, like there's so many power struggles and all of this stuff, but I think this is my sense, and I don't know how it is for you, but when the ages turned, like from Pisces to Aquarius, I had to relook at my stories around each of these planets.
Mm-hmm.
And
For sure.
Saturn's our relationship with authority,
Mm-hmm.
governments, parents, whatever, our power struggles that may show up in relationships or in the workplace. But in its higher octave, it is a rebalance of power. And what is power but knowing that you are loved and connected to an infinite universe?
Yeah.
And you have, like, you're playing with finite stuff too,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
that's real power. And so the struggle with Saturn is, I think, like we are struggling between what we have inherited versus where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe this is like a worthy, like Braveheart style battle where you're like pulled in both ways until you figure out like what it is that you're learning. Anyway, I can go on about Saturn.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Really
I'm gonna finish this little past life thing,
yeah.
because that's actually a good. I forgot about the whole connection between Saturn and past lives as well, right?
I also forgot. I just
yeah,
saw this.
yeah. So
super well picked.
Yeah, so that's called divination, I feel. Happening live on today's Harmonics. And so that was
Planet Saturn, I command you, my sleeping soul. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Venus. Wake up.
What is going on? I'm seeing all these visions. I need to hurry. The darkness drops again. But now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast its hour come?
Dang.
Oh my gosh.
What the hell?
Sailor Moon, I love you so much. Okay, I can stop this.
The 90s, man. The 90s, like, without trying to be spiritual, was so spiritual.
And you as like a little kid, and that's what I love about this, is that like, yes, it's a cartoon, but like hello, like that, I just got like, because in the events of Sailor Moon, Sailor Saturn's very special because like her one power is to like end the world, so she does in one of like the timelines, and so everything gets like restarted. And so this scene is from when she's like, in the bath, like remembering, right, having a vision, being like, who are these Sailor Scouts? I'm like, wait a minute, I'm one of them too. So that whole sequence
this is everyone's awakening journey, right? Like, you're not awakening to anything new, you're awakening to what you already are.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the presentation.
Yes. We might need to zoom through these last few planets.
Oh my gosh, we sure do. We can though, and like, how much longer do you have?
I'm gonna plug in my laptop. So
Okay,
while
yeah.
you bring
So
this
let's do this. We'll go.
yeah.
It's 7:13 right now, Eastern Standard Time.
Hmm.
Do you want to go to 7:30?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that, and that's our timestamp. Speaking of Saturn and time.
Yeah, I know, right? We need structure. Otherwise, we'll just be here chatting. This is how Rachel and all our conversations go
It's true. Yes. So
all over the world.
exactly. Okay. So let me plug in your laptop. I'm gonna share my screen again, and then I'm just going to. Okay, beautiful. So that was Saturn.
Yeah.
And then we're going to now zoom to
Oh,
Uranus.
ooh,
Uranus.
Uranus.
And Uranus as a sailor scout is actually quite unique because she lives her normal life as a boy.
Oh,
Yes.
how revolutionary.
Yes, indeed, right? Even at the time, right? So in Sailor Moon, the 90s dub version, the Western version, they made her a girl.
Oh,
And
interesting.
the relationship between Uranus and Neptune, they made cousins instead of them being lovers. So anyways, let's go with Uranus, and then we can kind of look at Uranus and Neptune together too as
Yeah,
well. So
actually, that'd be great.
Uranus, Oranos, god of the sky, lover of Gaia, and ruler of Aquarius. Both the genius and the mad scientist, the ruler of novelty and surprise. Uranus is the sky that covers Earth, the father of Saturn and Kronos, who castrated him with an adamantium diamond sickle. Oh, where did I get that from?
That is highly specific.
Yeah, I'm like, why did I put. Anyways, Rachel from 2020. Okay. Because that's when I made this presentation. And then so represents the higher octave of Mercury in intelligence and also represents expanded consciousness.
Wow.
So thoughts on that, my friend?
I mean, so to me, Uranus is the revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
So, one fun fact, a couple of weird things. Like Uranus is a weird planet unto
Yes.
itself.
Yes.
So it's north and south. It's north and like its poles are flipped. So some asteroid hit it, and what
Oh.
should be its north pole is actually like pointing out towards Pluto. And so its south pole faces the sun. It's weird. So if you look,
I didn't
so
know
Uranus
that.
has a Uranus like Saturn. Uranus has rings, and the rings are like
Like
this.
yeah,
They're
upward.
like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
instead of
that's
like
true.
this,
That's
right?
true.
So it's kind of like its axes are shifted. Also, one of the moons of Uranus, I forget the name, has has is a has water and an
Mm-hmm.
ice exterior, and technically has levels of oxygen.
So it
Maybe
could
whales live there.
theoretically be a livable planet.
I think it already is a livable planet. Like something lives there because oceans, life, whatever, probably something that likes the cold. But yeah,
Mm.
I mean, like quite interesting, right?
Hmm.
So to me, it's Uranus is this planet that's like, I understand astrology. The planets are going in order. North is north, south is south. And then you meet Uranus and you're like, wait, north is west? What? Right? And like it's just um and Uranus is I think currently at the end degrees of Taurus
Yes,
currently. Yeah.
yes, yes.
So this is wherever Uranus is in our chart, I think this is like change. And like I like the imagery when I think of Uranus, I think of lightning, which to me is a bit Aquarian
Mm-hmm,
in the
mm-hmm.
sense of it's about authentic connections, networks, technology, science, innovation, quantum physics. I think I did this mapping once around like between the First and Second World War. During the Roaring Twenties, there was this big heightening of quantum physics, right? Like all the quantum physicists of the world, Einstein and friends were meeting, they were going to symposiums. And the reason that couldn't take off was because of the Second World War,
Mm.
right? So it's this interesting, like you can only expand as much as your roots are deepened. And this is the
Yeah.
balance. And I think Uranus and Taurus is teaching us we have all this expansion possible. But if, you don't get your way, if your base desire is to like, I don't know, pick up a weapon and go kill someone or be tribal, mine, yours, then you can only grow so far. Like the pendulum only swings this much west as it does east.
You have. Oh, that actually brings up a great point because Sailor Uranus's powers
Yeah.
deal a lot with the earthquakes, right? Like it's
Interesting.
just you wouldn't. I don't know why I wouldn't think that. I'm gonna just show that because they
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Uranus is often presented with Neptune because they're lovers in the show. They're both women, but
Okay.
Uranus presents like in like regular life as a boy. And all the girls actually have a
Mhm.
crush on her in the beginning because they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's so cute." But I was like, "Oh wait, she's a girl." But she doesn't really like. She exudes a lot more masculine, like energy.
Energy.
Yeah,
Right.
but she does
Yeah.
transform into a female. So I'm just going to stop this. I'm going to go into.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have the outer scouts transformations, and this will be a good way to kind of
Ooh, yes,
fire
yes.
through them because they're the more wise elder scouts, and they kind of almost like look at the younger scouts like, oh, you guys are like kids kind of thing. So there's almost
That's
that kind of
funny.
dynamic between the two
Wow.
senshi. So let me just. I wasn't also expecting so much like juiciness to happen. I was like, that Sailor Saturn clip just totally tripped me out.
Right? I'm kind of still on that,
I'm
actually,
still
to
like
be honest.
reeling from it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's see here. Outer planet transformations. All right, let me just double check here. Beautiful. Okay, so Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. It's gonna go through the three of them. So you're gonna round it out though too. You can make a special guest appearance.
Oh, Neptune's cool.
I love Neptune. I love her. She's awesome in
Oh.
the show too. Yeah. Right?
Right. Yep, yep. I see it.
I see it too. But hold on, I'm just gonna get Uranus's.
Yeah. Also, one of the things I've always found interesting, this might be a bit more esoteric astrology, but like in
Mm.
the progression of the planets, right? It's kind of a story. Like you have Jupiter and you're like, I am expanded. Then you have Saturn and you're like, how do you take this expansion and actually like integrate it into your life? Like what are your everyday decisions? What is your
Ah.
material, like you had a realization, but now it's 9 a.m. Do you have to go to work? Like, right?
The
And
practical
then
parts
the
of that.
practical parts, right? And then also like past lives and this relationship with time. And then Uranus comes along and it just turns everything on its side, right?
Totally does.
So like, and I think what were you saying? Mozart is Uranus
Oh
ruled.
yes, yeah. So Mozart was ruled
Yeah.
by Uranus when I did his chart, and
Mm.
what an interesting thing to be ruled by such a revolutionary sign. And also he has a lot of Mercury stuff as well. So his music and communication, being a conduit for the divine through his operas, he did that. Mozart's in my book too, right?
Yes, yes, he
he's
is.
a he's a character in my book. I have Mozart in my book. Um, because of how important music is to opening portals, right? The
Yeah.
keys to things are in portals. Even in Crisis on Infinite Earths, you're traveling in a
Yes.
ship made of frozen music, right? So
Yes.
this idea of how we view our worlds and like literally putting that on its head and like revolutionizing it and like looking at it from a completely different angle where it's just like, wait a minute, what, this is left is right and right is left, and that's
Yes.
and so
Yes.
like now I'm like, but then to reorient yourself in that gives you understanding of how everything kind of works.
It does. And
Yeah.
again, in esoteric astrology, just like Jupiter is like a higher octave of Venus, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. Because now we get into like in Mercury, we're like, I have thoughts, I can organize, life is good, cool, cool. In Uranus, we're like, oh, my thought can create form. So now you have this completely different relationship with like how you think, what you mentally birth and create, just like, you know, your story of Zeus creating
Yeah.
Athena from his head.
Yeah.
Like, to me, he was having like a, you know, Uranus style moment, like an Aquarian style moment, right? And this creation of reality. So Uranus is like, what is your reality? And the minute you know what your reality is, then how you interact with it and show up is just different than it was yesterday.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. And with Mozart, it was like kind of one of those things of like also I feel like Aquarius uh deals a lot with like sci-fi and stuff to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I think of like Uranus being like that, uh so basically if you think about Aquarius as well, so who is Aquarius's ancient ruler again? Is it before Uranus it was Saturn, right? Or is it
Yes. Ooh, Saturn. I'm gonna
Sat
say it's Saturn.
I think it's Saturn too. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, right? To have
Yes.
Saturn rule Aquarius. I think it's a dual ruler, isn't it, for Aquarius?
It might be. Actually, honestly, that never made very much sense to me. If you look at its like um authoritarian vibe, what
Yeah.
it does in the time is now a spiral vibe, right? Because now if I like I have to meet you at 5 p.m.
Yes.
fine, but if I'm late, I can't be like, oh, time is a spiral. Like that's just me being flaky, you know? So like, how do you balance both?
Oh my gosh, that is a great segue into Neptune actually,
Yes,
because
yes,
that's Pisces energy, and
it is.
I've had a few Pisces friends where like, where are you in time space, my friend? Who knows? Are you really here? Am I really here? Is anyone really? That's 12th house stuff too, though. Like the dissolution of
Yeah.
boundaries and like and so Neptune, you saw in like the with the Sailor Scouts that Neptune, I love Neptune's transformation, and she's got like this mirror that she uses.
Ah, reflective.
Yeah, so that's all in Neptune's domain. As far as this presentation goes, you can actually even see in the glyph the trident, right? Poseidon, god of the sea and the unseen kingdom, ruler of Pisces. In astrology, Neptune is considered a planet of inspiration, dreams, psychic receptivity, illusion, and confusion. Neptune rules spirituality and all things subtle. Considered the higher octave of Venus, but in a more mystical sense, can also represent illusion and glamour depending on the interplay of other energies.
Mm,
Yeah,
I love
so
that.
thoughts on that?
So Poseidon to me, like, I mean, it in certain ways is obvious, right? He's like the lord of the seas and the rivers and the oceans. He's also the lord of earthquakes. And I think the story here is like when these
Ah,
gods were battling the Titans, like the old gods, one they couldn't really kill the Titans because everyone's kind of immortal.
yeah.
So what Poseidon did was he parted the seas. Zeus thunderbolted down. They created a crater under the sea, and then all
Ah,
of the Titans were imprisoned there, like like in the earth, like in a kind of a crater, and then the ocean was above it.
on top of it, yeah.
On top of it.
Okay,
And so
okay.
after that, he also became the lord of earthquakes. And the reason I like that kind of metaphysically is sometimes our dreams shake our world, especially
Mm-hmm.
on the path of awakening,
That's right. That's right.
right?
That's true.
And
Uh-huh.
it's this thing, right? Like I think like in your first book, like you have this adventure and you wake up and you're like, ah, it's just a dream. This is an aspect of the, like, I know Poseidon's a dude, but it's an aspect of the feminine, like our dream, our intuition, our entire unconscious cosmic communication that we kind of were like, oh, it's just a dream, it's fine. And it can be potent, it can be scary, it can be blah, 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 it can be all of these amazing things, and yet we kind of deny it. But when you start to like
Mm-hmm.
work with
Mm-hmm.
your dreams,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
then like those bridges become a lot clearer. And so to me, the trident is like kind of like the Holy Trinity, right? Because
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
like matter, spirit, and whatever. What's the third thing? Matter, spirit,
Soul.
soul. Yes, matter, spirit, soul, or like conscious, unconscious dream,
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or
It's
like the father, the mother, the child, like whatever, however your whatever holy trinity you believe, but that power is carried in the waters of us.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. I also think of like like the myth of Odysseus. It's uh the Odyssey,
Yeah.
right? Where he's like sailing through. It's really because he's like Poseidon's got like some issues with him, right? Because Odysseus is like, I don't need gods, and who the heck is that? And Poseidon's like, well, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna let you out on the sea and let's see how you like it, right? So this idea of yeah, like you think about like the trinity of like the gods, like in Marvel, Neptune, uh, Zeus. So actually, Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades all exist, right?
Yeah.
So, but like in like their version, but also you
Yeah.
can think of those three as being brothers ruling different domains, right? Where like you have
Exactly.
the sea, the sky, and then like the underworld.
Underworlds. Yeah.
So, if you think about like how Neptune's domain is like, there's a lot of water on Earth.
Yes. Yeah.
The sea makes up a lot, and we are mostly water too, right? And so even if
Mhm.
we think of like the moon and creating tides, of course, like the waters in us are going to be impacted by like vibration in like a very deep way. So I feel like with Neptune, it's good to look at what aspects Neptune makes with your signs. Like I have my son's trine Neptune.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. So I've always like felt um dream worlds, right? This whole
Yeah.
idea of like having very vivid dreams, like
Mm.
only like recently have I been able to like actually like dream as vivid as as I could when I was a kid, and I attribute that to being off birth control too, actually. But
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
but
For
yeah,
sure.
being able to like just harness dreams and like working with them, as you said, like being aware that you have power over it, like what you're doing before you go to sleep, before you go into those dream worlds, like maybe don't have your phone next to your head when you're sleeping,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff is like to protect your dreams, it's important.
And I love this word you use, harness, because this funny thing with Poseidon, the animal associated with him is horses.
Yeah.
Poseidon's chariot in the water is driven by horses, and like he also fathered a lot of kids, but he like I think Pegasus, the winged horse, like a horse be winged is a child of Poseidon, not someone of who walks on the earth. And I think that the chariot of Poseidon pulled by horses,
Mm.
and that thing is so perfect with this thing that you just said about we have our dreams and we forget them, but then when we have our dreams and have the ability of to harness them,
And bring them into
pull
like
the
the
chariot
material, yeah, pull it into
back,
this realm,
right? And like, what are horses? Their propulsion, their energy, their vitality, and their physical, their material,
I love horses so much too, like
right?
them as
And
like a symbol, and like the idea of I get this feeling when I ride with Indra on our motorcycle, right? That feeling of like when you like merge with something that's so fast and you're like going, and like that thrill of it is like that you're like where you can almost like break the barrier between
you
times. Yeah.
you are Flash.
Yeah. 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 No, that there you go. There's and like that's the whole idea of like Neptune and like the sea like portals, right?
Yeah,
Like when Saturn
exactly.
she was in the bath when she was having that vision, right?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly. I mean, I do a lot of like sensory deprivation float tank, and I swear to God, I solve all of Earth's problems in the 90 minutes there, and then when I come out, I forget it all.
so
that's
that's all of our challenges to
that's
like
all of
try
our
to like bring
challenges.
like harness,
Yeah,
anchor in the dream world of like the highest, most wonderful, beautiful dream, because
it
like
is.
yeah.
And like, I think this is the difficult thing where Neptune is hard because, again, in Vedic astrology, it's kind of associated with Maya and illusion. And
Mm,
what happens with illusions, we get attached to our dreams, and then like they don't happen, and then we get all pouty and angry, and then we actually devolve into a lower expression of
yeah.
Neptune, which is escapism.
Yes.
Right, so this
Yes.
is drug use
Yes.
for absolutely no
Yes.
reason.
Yeah.
And these are like the outer planets, I think they are so elevated on consciousness, but their lows are really low, right? This
Yeah.
is, oh, I'm gonna take whatever drugs because I just feel so great. But like we have now forgotten to consciously cultivate, and we are simply escaping. We're simply taken by the glitz and glamour of spirituality and the requirement to pay our rent, call someone back, do the physical thing. That's too hard. Like, this is
Yeah.
like your
Yeah.
Pisces friends, right? And mine
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
life
Yeah.
is
No.
just so hard. I just want to dream and like
Yeah.
the day. It's like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is getting caught in Neptune's shadow, and Neptune has a big shadow.
This is what I used to deal with when I was working with creatives, right? No, it's like I love creatives. I mean, I'm a
Yeah,
creative
for
too,
sure.
right? So it's just, but you know, especially like artists, let's say like I needed like a deck or I needed a mock-up by a certain time. You got to really be on top of them because otherwise you're like lost in like whatever creative like flow you're in. And like, but it's about like as a project manager providing parameters around the creative process so that like stuff actually can have like a done and you can put something out
And
as
it has
opposed, yeah,
impact.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
otherwise you can like you can work on the same thing for 17 years and like maybe it's perfect but no one's seeing it. Like what is the point of your creation? You know, what is
Yes,
the point of your
until
art?
it connects with like, yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great segue into our final planet.
So I actually wanted to ask you because it's 7:30
Oh,
now.
yes,
Should we do Pluto and
the
Moon
that's a
next?
great idea.
Because it's basically us. You're the
Could
Moon
we
and I'm Pluto.
cosplay as them?
Oh
Could
my
we
god,
try?
this cannot be even. I have no idea what Pluto would dress like, but I
I
let's
I could.
figure this
We
out.
would just need to get you a green wig. That's this beautiful green wig here. We just need to get you a staff. There's a way of doing it. So actually,
Okay.
I love that idea. We can do. It's a great way to do an interaction between Pluto and the moon
I
because
would love that because there's a lot of wild transits between the moon and Pluto,
yes,
and like, or rather, they feel wild to me.
yeah, yeah, and I mean like I also have a very like tight like my sun is opposes Pluto, very like
Really?
yeah, and that's been a
Okay.
lot to deal with in my life, like in terms of like Pluto constantly coming in and upheaving everything in my life.
Which is basically its job.
Yeah.
What needs to die
Yeah,
now?
yeah, and then just like
Go away.
everything just falls apart completely, and you're like, oh my gosh. But like, so
Yeah.
it's been a lesson in like getting used to just like riding the waves and like just like harnessing
Mm.
that power of the change and reinvent and regeneration, reinventing yourself, being able to go with it and not necessarily throw out all of the lessons from the past stuff just because it was like it's over, right? You know, to
Mm.
take
Right.
that in that retrospective and really take those lessons and take it forward. And so, yeah, the transformation part of it, the idea of connection of Pluto to like phoenixing as well is like from like, yeah,
Yeah, like I have Pluto in 29 degrees, I think, of Libra,
yeah.
and it
Oof,
try I know, right?
oof.
But it's like end times.
No, but you're like
Uh,
you're in like a transitory period with a planet that's already very transitory.
exactly. So much yeah, seriously. But I have this lovely sextile with
Mm.
Neptune.
Okay, that's
So it's
yes,
like
yes.
dreams, rebirth, something, something. There's something there. So yeah, I think because Pluto is like Sailor Pluto is so much me and Sailor Moon is so much you. Let's figure this out for next week.
Yes. Oh my
Same same
god.
time, same place ish.
Yes, and
Around
I
the
can.
same
It'll
time.
be a great excuse for me as well to get all the other Sailor Scouts outfits made too as
Right.
well. Cause then,
Yes.
yeah,
So we will continue this with part 3 and we're going to end with a bang cuz like Pluto and the moon, like the moon is so personal and close to us and Pluto is just like so
and then
far
oh my
out.
gosh, I can get Kevin to be Tuxedo Mask. I can even.
Oh my gosh. Yes, please. We'll all be on our own screens.
Yeah, because also Sailor Pluto is very much like out of time with the Sailor Scouts. She's kind of
Yeah.
eternal in the best sense of the world, in the best sense of the word, and also she's a guardian to Sailor Moon's kids.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I
like
actually just found out today that my second godson, my second god baby has been conceived. My friend told me she's pregnant. This is a really roundabout way of saying it, but I am fairy godmother to like an amazing 4-year-old and he's going to be a big brother.
so
So,
this is all just reinforcing
yeah,
the
how
fact
much
I'm
I am
right, right, and how much you truly are my Sailor Pluto in this
I
game.
know. And like we laugh because I'm not a godmother in the I will like in the responsible sense. I'm the godmother in that these are your crystals. This is your
You're
birth
the best
chart.
kind of godmother. You're the godmother they have movies about, you know? And like, I'm going to
Yes.
teach you how to like commune with the crystals, and then like the little kid figures out a whole portal and you're like, "Well, there you go."
Exactly. I know. It's so great. I love it.
But that is a great way to end off this conversation because it's about also like serving our inner children, right? That's a lot of like how like bringing in Sailor Moon into a lot of these like
Yeah,
esoteric, very like mystery school topics, right? We're talking about these epic stories of gods, but then all these different iterations
exactly.
of the same energies in the stories can be told, and it's not like copyright. It's not, it's just about like sharing that
Mhm.
lens, that way of the universe expressing itself in a different dance, in a different form, and us bouncing off each other. So,
Yeah, and stories evolve with humanity, right? So like the stories of Zeus were like 5, 6,000 years old, and Sailor Moon is from 1997.
yeah.
And it's like, we're just cycling through all of this. And thank you so much for joining us for episode
Yeah.
2. Because we're so chatty, there will be an episode 3. So please join us Friday Eastern Standard Time at some point in the evening.
Some point in time in the evening in time space, because what is time anyways, you know? But
Exactly. Catch us if you missed our previous episodes either on Rumble. We're also on Spotify, and we would love to hear from you. Please email us your thoughts, your musings about the planets, about this exploration. Our email is todaysharmonics with an S at gmail.com. We
that's
really look forward to seeing you and hearing from you.
perfect. Thanks so much, Starseed friends. And we will finish off this tour through the cosmos next week. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.